People say some places should never be entered after dark. But what happened at Six Flags New Orleans will make you question everything you thought you knew about the paranormal. In the middle of the night, a group of friends crossed a fence into the abandoned park, and what they saw, what they experienced, changed their lives forever. Faces without eyes, laughter with no mouth, rides moving on their own, and some of them never came back. Do you dare to watch the full story? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch the scariest true horror stories every single day. Six Flags New Orleans had once been a monument to joy. Families drove from neighboring states, children clutched cotton candy, and teenagers screamed in delight as the roller coasters roared overhead. It was a place built for dreams, for laughter, and for escape from the ordinary. But in August 2005, Hurricane Katrina brought all of that to an end. The floodwaters rose, swallowing the city in devastation, and the amusement park was left submerged beneath 6 feet of water. When the storm passed, New Orleans struggled to rebuild, but Six Flags never reopened. The attractions rusted in silence. Paint peeled from the rides, weeds forced their way through cracked pavement, and the once vivid murals of cartoon characters faded into ghostly shades. The city fenced it off, posting warning signs and promising demolition, yet year after year the wreckage remained. Time turned it into something else. It was no longer just an abandoned theme park, but became a symbol of death, of decay, of memories drowned in the flood. Locals whispered about it in hushed tones. They said that on quiet nights you could still hear the carousel's music drifting across the swampy air, even though the ride had no power. Others swore they had heard the shrieks of children, high, playful, and then suddenly panicked echoing from within the roller coaster skeletons. Some said these were the voices of kids who had been swept away during the storm, their spirits still tethered to the place where their laughter once rang. More than once, city officials tried to seal the park completely. Chain-link fences were raised, barbed wire stretched across the top, and no trespassing signs were nailed in place. But the warnings were never enough. Thrill seekers, YouTubers, and urban explorers saw the abandoned park not as a tomb but as a challenge. They cut holes through the fences, slipped inside, and filmed themselves wandering through the decaying midway. They treated the place as a backdrop for adventures, not realizing what might be waiting for them. Among the young and reckless, Six Flags New Orleans had earned a different reputation, not just as a forbidden zone, but as one of the most haunted places in America. In July 2019, 5 friends decided to test those rumors. Alex Johnson, a 22-year-old student from Baton Rouge, was the leader of the group. Tall, confident, and always chasing the thrill of forbidden places. Alex had already filmed himself sneaking into abandoned hospitals and derelict schools. His YouTube channel had a modest following, but he dreamed of making it big. To him, Six Flags was the ultimate prize-a-decade monument with a reputation dark enough to guarantee views. Sophie Muller, 21, came from Germany. She was studying abroad in Louisiana, fascinated by American history and culture. Unlike Alex, she wasn't obsessed with internet fame. Instead, she carried her camera like a shield, always documenting, always searching for the story beneath the surface. Her quiet determination often made her the one who noticed the details others ignored. Daniel Carter, 23, from Toronto, was Alex's closest friend. He had a sharp tongue and a sarcastic laugh, the kind of person who mocked every warning and treated every danger as a joke. Where others felt nervous, Daniel felt amused. He wanted to see ghosts so he could laugh at them. Isabella Rossi, 21, had flown from Italy to spend the summer traveling across the US. Shy and easily frightened Isabella often found herself dragged into situations by stronger personalities. She didn't like the idea of sneaking into the abandoned park, but she didn't want to be the one who stayed behind either. Lastly, there was Lucas Moreau, 22, from France. Lucas was quieter than the rest, often watching instead of speaking. He had once spoken to a New Orleans taxi driver about the park, and the driver had warned him never to go there. According to the old man, the water never really left. What it took, it kept. Lucas never forgot the words, though he never shared them with the others. Together, the five formed a strange group, part thrill seekers, part skeptics, part reluctant followers. What bound them together that night was a single idea: to film a vlog inside Six Flags New Orleans, to capture proof that the park was just a ruin and nothing more. Their plan was simple. They would slip inside at midnight, record the footage they needed, and leave before dawn. Alex promised it would be quick. Daniel joked that the only thing they needed to fear was tetanus. Isabella tried to laugh along but kept her eyes down. Sophie checked her batteries twice, and Lucas, standing a little apart from the rest, glanced toward the distant skyline of rusting rides and felt the same unease he had carried since the warning. None of them could have imagined how the night would end. It was close to midnight when the five of them reached the perimeter fence. The Louisiana air was heavy with heat, clinging to their skin with the weight of summer. The highway behind them was quiet, no headlights in sight, only the soft hum of cicadas filling the swampy night. The fence loomed tall, topped with spirals of barbed wire, but a section had already been cut. Someone had pushed the chain link open, leaving a jagged gap wide enough to slip through. Alex grinned when he saw it. "See, we're not the first," he whispered, pulling his backpack tighter on his shoulders. "Easy in, easy out." Sophie raised her camera, filming the gap and Alex's smirk. "Do you ever wonder why the fence keeps getting repaired and cut again?" she asked. "Why not just leave it?" "Because they don't want idiots like us wandering in," Daniel answered, with a laugh, "and because ghost stories sell better when there's a fence around them." He ducked under the torn wire with practiced ease. One by one, the others followed. Isabella hesitated, staring into the black maw of the park beyond. The skeletal outline of the Ferris wheel was visible even from here, towering over the landscape. Like a rusted sentinel, the sight sent a chill down her spine. Lucas, noticing her hesitation, offered a hand. She took it silently, stepping through. The moment they were inside, the sound changed. The chorus of insects outside the fence cut off abruptly, as though a switch had been thrown. The air seemed denser, quieter, the silence pressing against their ears. "Creepy," Sophie muttered, adjusting her lens. The red recording light blinked. Steadily, they advanced down what had once been the main promenade. Faded banners still clung to broken lampposts, advertising long-forgotten events. The pavement was fractured and uneven, swallowed in parts by weeds. To their left, the ticket booths leaned on their foundations, glass long since shattered. Giant Six Flags sign above the entrance was warped and peeling, the letters hanging crooked as though dragged down by gravity itself. Every step echoed faintly. Alex walked with confidence, narrating for the camera. "Welcome, everyone, to Six Flags New Orleans. Closed since 2005. They say this place is cursed, haunted by the victims of Katrina. Tonight, we're going to prove the truth. Just ruins, nothing more. Behind him, Daniel snickered. Cue the ghost kid jumping out of the shadows. But there was no laughter from Isabella. She kept close to Lucas, clutching her phone like a talisman. Her eyes darted constantly, as if she expected someone or something to step out of the shadows. Sophie lowered her camera for a moment. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Alex asked, a voice like a kid, laughing. Daniel clapped his hands once. "Already? Come on, Muller, don't feed the story." But Lucas had heard it too. He froze, eyes narrowing into the darkness. It had been faint, high-pitched, and gone in an instant, but it was real. He opened his mouth to say something, then stopped. No one would believe him anyway. They moved deeper. Rides emerged from the shadows like the skeletons of long-dead beasts. The Mega Zeph roller coaster stretched across the horizon, its wooden frame rotting, sections collapsed like broken ribs. The Midway Games were nothing but stripped booths, their prizes long destroyed. By mold and sun. Sophie filmed continuously, sweeping across the attractions. Through her viewfinder, she caught something strange. A streak of pale white darting across the far end of the Midway, quick as a flash. She lowered the camera, heart pounding, but the path was empty. "What is it?" Isabella whispered. "Nothing," Sophie said quickly, though her voice betrayed her unease. By the time they reached the central plaza, the silence had deepened. Even their own breathing seemed too loud. They gathered in front of a rusted fountain, its dry basin filled with stagnant rainwater. Alex looked around, grinning as though nothing were amiss. "We're in, no ghosts, no problem, just history. Let's make this the best video yet." But Sophie kept her camera raised, her lens pointed toward the shadows. And though none of them admitted it, every one of them felt the same strange truth. The deeper they went, the more it seemed as though the park itself was listening. The central plaza branched into several paths, each leading to a different attraction. In the moonlight, the park revealed itself as a corpse of steel and wood. Everything was twisted, eroded, or half swallowed by weeds. Yet the shapes were unmistakable, a carnival frozen in decay. The group moved toward the Ferris wheel. Even after years of abandonment, it remained the tallest structure in sight. The rusted giant loomed above them, its skeletal spokes silhouetted against the night sky. Most of the gondolas hung at odd angles, some missing entirely, leaving gaping voids in the circle. Daniel whistled low. "Looks like the world's biggest tetanus shot. Imagine the view from the top," Alex said, awe in his voice. He raised his flashlight, sweeping the beam across the massive wheel. For a moment, the light caught on one of the gondolas, number 7, painted with peeling blue. Unlike the others, it rocked gently back and forth, though the air was still. "Did you see that?" Isabella asked quickly. "The wind," Daniel said dismissively. "There is no wind," Lucas murmured. His voice was quiet, but the certainty in it made Isabella shiver. Sophie focused her camera on the swaying gondola. Through the lens it looked as if a shadow was inside, seated in the middle of the peeling metal seat. She blinked, lowered the camera, and saw nothing with her bare eyes. When she raised it again, the shadow remained. Her hand trembled slightly as she pulled the camera down. "It's recording," she whispered. "Good," Alex said, missing her tone. "That's exactly what we need. People will eat it up." They left the Ferris wheel behind, following the overgrown path toward the Mega Zeph, the once famous wooden roller coaster. Its massive structure sprawled across the horizon like the skeleton of a prehistoric creature. Whole sections had collapsed, leaving jagged edges of wood that pointed like broken bones into the sky. As they drew closer, a sound rose in the air, the faint metallic clink of chains under strain. It came in steady rhythm, like the sound of a coaster car being pulled slowly up the incline. Isabella froze. "No, that can't be real," Daniel grinned. "Sound effects, Rossi. Probably some old chain still creaking when the wind hits it." Right, but again, there was no wind. The air was heavy, unmoving. Sophie lifted the camera toward the broken track, the lens searching for movement. Nothing moved, yet the clinking sound grew louder, climbing, as if an invisible car was reaching the top. And then silence. A split second later, the echo of a roller coaster dropping filled the night. It was deafening, the roar of wheels on track, the thunder of descent. The group instinctively ducked, hearts racing, and yet, before them, the wooden frame remained silent and still, untouched for over a decade. Daniel clutched his chest, laughing breathlessly. "Okay, that was good. I'll give them that." But no one else laughed. Isabella's face was pale, and even Alex, usually unshakable, looked unsettled. They pushed onward, their nerves raw, until they reached a smaller building near the midway, the House of Mirrors. Its facade was cracked and warped, panels of reflective glass broken or clouded with grime. The entrance yawned open like a mouth waiting to swallow them. "Classic horror setting," Daniel muttered, stepping inside first, his flashlight beam fractured immediately, bouncing into endless reflections. The others followed reluctantly. The mirrors twisted their images, stretching limbs, bending faces. Sophie raised her camera and recorded the reflections doubling and tripling until the group seemed larger than it was. Isabella walked near the back, trying not to look directly into the warped glass. Then she screamed. The sound cut through the confined space, sharp and terrified. Everyone spun toward her. She was standing frozen, staring into one of the mirrors. Her reflection was there wide-eyed. Trembling but directly behind it was another figure, a child. The boy looked no older than 8. He wore a soaked red t-shirt clinging to his thin frame, and his face was pale, lips blue as though he had drowned. His eyes were black pits. Behind me, Isabella gasped, spinning around. The space was empty, just the dusty corridor of mirrors. But, in the reflection, the child remained, standing motionless behind her mirrored self. "Do you see it?" she cried. Alex shook his head. "There's nothing there." Sophie hesitated, raising her camera. Through the lens, the child was visible clearer than in the glass itself. The boy tilted his head toward her, and for a moment, his mouth stretched into an impossible smile. Sophie nearly dropped the camera. "Let's go," Lucas said firmly. He gripped Isabella's arm and pulled her toward the exit. She resisted only long enough to glance one last time at the mirror. The child was gone. They spilled out into the night air, shaken. Isabella was trembling, Sophie pale. Daniel opened his mouth to joke, but for once, no words came. The silence around them pressed tighter, as though the park had been holding its breath and was only now exhaling. Somewhere in the distance, faint and discordant, the music of a calliope drifted through the air. The sound of the calliope music carried through the broken park, faint at first, then growing stronger. Its cheerful carnival notes clashed with the silence, grotesque in their suddenness. "There's no power here," Sophie whispered, gripping her camera so tightly her knuckles whitened. "How is their music?" Alex's eyes gleamed with adrenaline. This is it. This is what people want to see. Keep filming. The music pulled them toward the source, the merry-go-round, once a centerpiece of the park. The carousel now stood as a ruin. Its paint was faded, horses cracked and splintered, poles rusted green with years of rain. Yet as they approached, the platform creaked and shifted. Slowly, impossibly, the carousel began to turn. Isabella froze at the sight. "No," she whispered. "No, we shouldn't be here." Daniel laughed nervously. "What is this? Disney's haunted special effects?" But his voice wavered. The carousel rotated with jerks and groans, the tinny music box tune echoing in the night. Sophie raised her camera and zoomed in. Through the lens, the ride was not empty. Children filled the horses, dozens of them, their small bodies swaying as the ride turned. But their faces were blank, smooth patches of skin where eyes and mouths should have been. Some clutched the poles as they spun, others sat stiffly upright, heads twitching unnaturally with the motion. Sophie lowered the camera quickly. To the naked eye, the carousel was empty, only cracked wooden horses circling in the dark. Her breath quickened. "There on it," she whispered. "They who?" Daniel asked. "The children," she essed him. MERED. Isabella grabbed Sophie's arm, panic clear in her eyes. "Stop filming it, please. Don't look at them." But Alex stepped forward, mesmerized. "This is amazing. Proof. Actual proof." "Proof of what?" Lucas muttered sharply. "Proof we don't belong here." Daniel, still grinning, though sweat beaded his forehead, strutted toward the carousel. "If these kids are so scary, maybe I should take a ride with them." He swung a leg over one of the cracked horses, straddling it with mock bravado. "Daniel." "Don't," Isabella cried. He grinned, raising his arms. "Look, guys, I'm part of the ghost tour now." But then his grin faltered. His body jerked once, violently. His hands shot to his throat. "Danny," Alex called, stepping closer. Daniel clawed at his neck, gasping silently. Dark marks appeared around his throat, bruises forming in the shape of small hands. Invisible fingers dug into his skin, tightening. He wheezed, his eyes bulging in panic. Sophie caught it all on camera, the lens trembling with her own terror. "Oh my God, something's holding him." Daniel let out a strangled scream before being yanked backward off the horse. He hit the ground hard, coughing, the bruises on his throat already deep purple. "Help him," Isabella shrieked, rushing forward, but Lucas pulled her back. "Don't touch him," Lucas warned, his voice urgent. "Can't you see? They don't want us here." Daniel lay groaning, gasping for breath. His eyes darted wildly, as if he could still see whatever force had seized him. The carousel continued turning, the music shrill and distorted. "Enough," Alex barked. His fearless facade cracked, his voice shaking. "We're leaving now." They scrambled away from the carousel, but the park twisted around them. Every path they took curved back toward the same clearing. The merry-go-round stood in the center, spinning endlessly, music warping into a cruel parody of joy. "No," Sophie gasped, her camera jerking wildly as she spun. "We're walking in circles." "It's impossible," Isabella whispered, tears streaming down her face. "There's no way." "The exit was that way." Lucas stopped, chest heaving. "The park isn't letting us leave." As if to answer, the carousel lights flickered on bright, carnival-colored bulbs glowing after years of darkness. The children Sophie had seen through her lens now appeared to all of them. Pale, faceless figures filling the horses, their heads turning in unison. To watch the group, the sight shattered whatever calm remained. Isabella screamed. Sophie dropped the camera for a moment. Even Alex stumbled back, horror etched on his face. The faceless children began to laugh. The sound was high-pitched, echoing without mouths to form it. It filled the plaza, bouncing off rusted steel and broken glass, until it was impossible to tell where it came from. Daniel, still clutching his bruised throat, staggered toward the group. "We have to go," he croaked, voice ragged. But the laughter grew louder. The carousel spun faster, and the way out was gone. The carousel whirled faster and faster, its horses lurching like beasts in pain. The faceless children laughed. In unison, their shrill chorus grinding into the group's nerves until thought itself became difficult. "Run!" Alex shouted, grabbing Sophie's wrist. They bolted down the path they thought led to the exit, Daniel limping after them. Isabella sobbing as Lucas dragged her along. The laughter followed. They turned corners, climbed over fallen beams, and pushed through waist-high weeds. Yet every path ended the same way. The carousel waited for them, glowing sickly in the night. "This isn't real," Isabella cried, falling to her knees. "It can't be real." "It is," Lucas said grimly. "We're caught in it." A sudden screech tore through the air, the tortured groan of metal twisting under strain. All of them froze. The sound came from the Ferris wheel. The towering structure, silent before, was moving. Its spokes groaned as the wheel began to turn. The gondolas swaying violently. Alex's flashlight caught the number 7 car rocking harder than the rest. Inside, for a brief second, he thought he saw children pressed against the windows, their eyeless faces grinning in the dark. "God," he whispered. Then the gondola doors creaked open. Something yanked Alex backward. He screamed as unseen hands clutched his arms, dragging him toward the Ferris wheel. Sophie shrieked, trying to hold on, but the pull was too strong. He was hauled across the cracked pavement, his heels scraping sparks against the concrete. "Alex!" Daniel roared, stumbling forward, but he collapsed, still coughing from his bruised throat. Alex was lifted into the air as though carried by a dozen invisible hands. His body twisted, flailing, as he was shoved into gondola number 7. The door slammed shut. Sophie, camera raised in desperation, caught the final image. Alex pressed against the glass, eyes wide with terror, as faceless children crowded around him. Their heads turned toward her, their laughter rising, though their mouths were smooth and blank. "Alex!" Isabella screamed, clawing at the empty air. But the Ferris wheel kept turning, groaning as if savoring its newest passenger. Gondola 7 rose slowly into the sky, carrying Alex upward until his face was lost in the dark. Sophie was sobbing now, still filming through trembling hands. "We have to get out," Lucas said sharply, voice breaking. "Now," Daniel staggered to his feet, his breath ragged. "No way in hell I'm letting this place keep me." He pointed to the fence in the distance, the faint outline of rusted chain link glinting under the moon. "There, we just run and climb. That's it." They sprinted. The fence loomed closer, the outside world so near they could taste it. Lucas dropped his backpack, vaulted onto the metal links, and began to climb. "Come on," he shouted, hauling himself upward. But as he reached the top, the darkness above seemed to thicken. It was as though the night itself opened like a mouth. Lucas vanished. 1 second he was there, clinging to the fence, his face twisted in determination. The next he was gone, swallowed by shadow. His scream echoed for a heartbeat, then silence. His body never hit the ground. Lucas, Isabella shrieked, collapsing against the fence. She clawed at it, but there was nothing. Just the rusted wire swaying slightly, as though he had never been there. Daniel backed away, horror on his face. No, this isn't happening. He can't just disappear. Sophie, still clutching the camera, turned in slow. Circles. The lens caught the emptiness where Lucas had been, the silent fence, the barren path. She whispered through trembling lips, "It took him. Shut it off." Isabella screamed at her, "Stop filming. Stop giving it what it wants." But Sophie couldn't. The camera felt fused to her hands, her only lifeline in the nightmare. The Ferris wheel creaked again. Sophie lifted the lens. Gondola 7 swung high above, and for an instant, she saw Alex still inside, staring down at them. The faceless children pressed against the glass beside him. Their laughter echoed, but no sound left their mouths. Sophie lowered the camera slowly. Her voice was a whisper. "He's gone too." Daniel grabbed her shoulder. "We're not all dying in here. We're finding a way out." His eyes were bloodshot, his throat raw, but his determination flared in desperation. The four remaining stumbled back toward the midway, their path lit only by Sophie's camera light and Daniel's trembling flashlight. The carousel had stopped. Now, its horses frozen mid-spin, but the silence was worse. The air felt suffocating, heavy with unseen eyes. Then, from the shadows near the funhouse, came a sound, soft, childish giggling. It surrounded them.
Thank you for following.